Behold incredible drama on today's The Science. He abandoned his family, leaving a poor mom to raise their only child alone for over a decade. Who is he? The mom's been keeping it a secret this entire time, but it ends right here, today, with the blinding truth. The results that you have been waiting for are in. 3 men, 1 child, and 1 overtired YouTuber. Welcome to The Science. What, you're upset about the lack of intro? That's too bad. We're being a little weird today. This is Daddy Ketchum, a single mom of 1 from Pallet Town, a small suburb of Viridian City in the Kanto region. Her child, Ash Ketchum, bearing her name, was sent out, like all young children are in our world, into the wilderness to make wild animals fight each other for their amusement. To be young again. Delia has been keeping the identity of Ash Ketchum's father a secret for his entire life, and, if we can be meta for a second, over 20 years since the entire franchise was founded. And today is the day when we finally get to the bottom of this massive secret using the powers of math, combinatorics, statistics, genetics, probability, and the almighty square. The day of reckoning is today, Mrs. Ketchum. Today is the day. Dear Nintendo, hi, it's me, Austin. You didn't actually think I'd leave you hanging on the intro, did you? Yeah, of course not. Anyway, today we're gonna figure out who Ash's dad is, or if we're being more accurate, who his father of the available candidates probably is, because there are a lot of candidates if we take all of them into account. And while this episode does blur the lines between what is a game theory and what is a film theory and what is a game theory and what is a science, try and stop me. You can't, because the video's already made, and it's here, playing. It's done. It's finished. I'm the Lizard King. First, let me introduce you to our already narrowed down candidates for Ash's dad. I did have a lot of help thinning the herd from YouTuber Charu Sharu's video on Ash's father, because there are a lot of dudes who it could have been, and he got me to where I am a lot sooner. Anyway, once I introduce them, then we will move on to the science! In no particular order, there's Professor Oak. This one's fun because he and Ash's mom clearly have something going on in the present canon. We've got motive. The real question is timing and opportunity. The next we got is Bruno, which, man, you know what? If you got Bruno Delia, good job, because that is a slice of a man. An interesting possibility that I would have never considered is Silver. No, Tanya, not that Silver. This Silver. He's the only candidate who only appears in the anime, which is particularly funny because he only shows up in 1 episode. But he is a fan favorite because he shows such a strong connection to Ash, both morally and ethically. But also the guy seems to know who Ash is, in spite of him being kind of a mediocre and forgettable Pokemon trainer. These are our 3 main candidates, and I want you to keep them in the back of your head as we go through these next parts. Okay? Okay, because we're gonna do some science, and by science, I mean our good friend Punnett Squares. Oh yeah, baby! Let's do it! You know, I say our good friend, but I don't think I've ever actually used Punnett Squares on this show before, but they are a ton of fun, and they're going to be our main tool when it comes to analyzing the potential parentage of Ash Ketchum. And since the eyes are the easiest, and we're going to analyze them anyway, let's explain it using our actual situation. In order to understand Punnett Squares, we have to understand 2 words. Well, no, 3. No, actually 5. Well, we're going to leave homozygosity and heterozygosity out of it because, as we're lacking in genetics testing equipment for cartoon and video game characters, we're not gonna know the exact genetic makeup of any of these yahoos. Plus, if we did have that technology, we would just do a paternity test. Where was I? Oh, right, Punnett Squares. Okay, so the first thing you have to know is the difference between a genotype and a phenotype. A phenotype is actually really easy. It's what you actually look like, or rather, it's the expression of your genetics. You have all these genes inside you that make up your different parts, but it's actually your blue eyes, your olive skin, your brown hair that are phenotypes. The next is genotypes, and relatedly, alleles. Genotypes are the actual genetic makeup of a person, and alleles are each 1/2 of that genetic makeup. And let's look at it this way. If you need 2 blue genes, Blue jeans. Sorry, that is really stupid. If you need two blue alleles to mix together in order to have blue eyes, we would illustrate this with two lowercase b's. Each b here is an allele, and together they make the genotype of two genes for blue eyes, or one gene for blue eyes. Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. You get the point, which together they create the phenotype of blue eyes when someone is actually created and born. The b's in this case are lowercase because blue eyes are considered a recessive trait, which you'll understand more once we get to it, because once you actually see it done, it'll make a lot more sense. Daddy Ketchum has the phenotype of brown eyes, which means we know she has at least one capital B allele in her genotype. The problem is brown is a dominant allele over pretty much every other allele out there, meaning we don't really know what her second allele is, so we're just gonna put a question mark up there. This is the first half of our Punnett square. Now, the second half, these are genes from the father, which we also do not have at all. So, 2 question marks here. Now, for this specific model, we're going to use brown, green, and blue alleles, where brown is dominant over green and green is dominant over blue. And in order to understand how these charts work, let's say Delia mates with a blue-eyed male. And let's say we did a genetic test to determine that Delia has a recessive blue allele from a past relative just hanging out there. Using nothing but this square and a tiny bit of math, we can use this limited information to make a pretty good guess of what Delia and Mystery Man's offspring would look like. And our first step is to fill in Delia's alleles in the square like this. Capital B's down this column and lowercase b's down this column. Then we put in the donor's alleles here, lowercase b's all around. So on the left side, we have a capital B followed by a lowercase b, and in the right side, it's lowercase b's all around. The left column results in brown eyes, as brown is a dominant trait to blue, and the right column results in blue eyes because there are 2 recessive genes that match. This means of this specific pairing, there is a 50-50 chance that the kid's eyes will be brown or blue. Now, this is both helpful and not helpful because we don't know Delia or the father's genetic makeup in full. All we know is that Delia has one brown allele. What's even more frustrating is, well, Ash's eyes are brown. And why is that frustrating? Because this is what a Ketchum Punnett square for eyes would actually look like. It is an absolute wreck. We cannot work backward from this. It also means that we cannot use eyes to eliminate who the father is. Because no matter who she paired with, I mean, he was always going to have brown eyes, and there's always a chance he could have blue eyes or green eyes. That we get no information out of this. That did not stop me, however, from calculating the likelihood that our donor would have a certain color of eyes. And it turns out there's a 55% chance, slightly more than 50-50, that Ash's dad has brown eyes, which is good for our motley crew because they all have brown eyes. I also did my math on a whiteboard and just left a 5 divided by 9 equals brown-eyed dad and assumed I would remember what I did to get there, and I did not. I did not. Well, I'm not going to start doubting myself now. I'm sure I'm in the right. Anyway, it doesn't hurt or help our case much because all of our potential mating partners have brown or otherwise dark eyes, so shoot. Well, I guess that means it's time to get the really fun stuff out. That's right, baby. It is time for polygenic Punnett squares. Let the madness begin! You see, Punnett squares are fun, but they're also wrong a not insignificant percentage of the time, and that's because phenotypes, human characteristics, aren't just determined by one gene. Eye color alone is controlled by maybe as few as 8 genes, up to the more common scientific consensus of 16, but it could be as many as 50. 50 genes! That's 100 alleles! Try building a Punnett square for that! Actually... I could do that with the power of Python. Oh, my computer is going to be so mad at me for this. And here we go. Ha! Memory error. I knew it! Time well spent. Anyway, things can get complicated extremely quickly. Just doing 50 genes from 2 parents gave me what, like 100 factorial combinations? Enough to crash my code. So as you can see, I coded something to help me with the next parts because things are about to get extremely tricky. And we are about to eliminate some contestants from this veritable genetics race because we're going to be looking at hair color using not 1, but 2 genes, which alone makes these squares a lot more complicated. Going from 4 possible outcomes from the standard monogenic square, we go up to 16 possibilities because of these various possible outcomes of alleles. First of all, if we took 2 parents with light brown hair and paired them, first you'd have to take all the combinations of alleles from the mom, a b, a lowercase b, lowercase a, big B, and 2 little a b's at the end. Then you do the same for dad. Then you add their values where capital letters are worth 1 point and lowercase letters 0 points. And what you get is this square of results. And what does all this mean? Well, the higher the number, the darker the hair of the child. The lower the number, the lighter the hair color. So from this light brown haired pairing, there is a 6.25% chance of having a child with super dark black hair, a 6.25% chance of having a kid with platinum blonde hair, a 25% chance of blonde, a 37% chance of light brown like the 2 of them, and a 25% chance of dark brown, meaning that 2 parents with light brown hair can produce children with hair all across the color spectrum, but are most likely to produce hair that resembles their own. So let's put in Ash's mom, who has brown hair, or is it red hair? Gosh, it's different everywhere. Okay, let's just make it red or light brown to be safe. That seems pretty consistent with her after all. Ash, meanwhile, has black hair, meaning he's gotta have a 4 in there somewhere, even if it's a slim chance. We know from Celebi, the voice of the forest, where we see a portrayal of young Professor Oak, that he also has brown hair, meaning a pairing between Oak and Delia would have a 12% chance of producing a child with black hair. Meanwhile, Bruno also has black hair and kicks this likelihood up to 25%. But Silver? Ugh, oh boy. Okay, Silver, are you ready? Just have a seat. The results are in, and you are not the father. Silver has very light hair. Even if we presume it's blonde and not platinum blonde, there is a 0% chance that he could have fathered Ash. Period. There's simply not enough potential for melanin between Ash's mom and Silver, so he is gone. So what else could we look at to narrow things down? We could toss a coin. Well, no. There's one more metric we could look at, and that's skin tone, but in order to do skin tone, we're gonna have to make our square bigger. A lot bigger. We're gonna have to up it from a 16 possibility square to a 64 square grid. Yeah, I told you, things get out of control fast, and skin works very similarly to hair and eyes for that matter, and that's that its darkness comes from the amount of melanin in it. And something I noticed that's interesting is that Ash has a slightly darker skin tone than his mom. It's not a ton darker, but he's definitely more olive than she is. And I'm not gonna explain this square to you because it's literally the same as the last one, just bigger, and it has 6 variables instead of 4. I'll put Delia at somewhere light, number 2. Remember, 0 counts as its own number here. Bruno, meanwhile, I'd put somewhat dark, veering on quite dark, but a score of 4. And Oak is a little less dark than Bruno, but definitely darker than Delia is, so we'll make him a 3-pointer, 23 feet 9 inches. Here's the numbers for a Bruno-Delia pairing, and here's the numbers for an Oak-Delia pairing. It is fairly inconclusive, if I'm being honest. They literally both have the exact same chance of producing a medium-skinned child, 38%. And if you collapse them down to their own categories here of just light, medium, and dark, they both have an extremely high chance of producing a kid with medium skin tone, 88%. You know, I think we need to adjust our approach here. We've been trying to work with our candidates and eliminate them, but what we really need to do is produce a profile and gather a little bit more circumstantial evidence in order to figure out who parented Ash. Okay, so let's work from here. I already said there's a 55% chance that the father has brown eyes, so likely brown. The father has a 63% chance, meanwhile, of having very dark hair versus a 33% chance of having just brown hair. And finally, he has a 59% chance of having medium skin with a 33% chance of having very light skin. That's interesting. Now, that's the data. Let's get to the circumstantial evidence. Bruno is very similar in age to Delia, whereas Oak he's quite old, and he has a family, clearly with someone else, and nobody mentions Ash being Gary's uncle? Do I have that right? This is some Dwight Latham and Mo Jaffe stuff, but he is close by. Okay, so I'm prepared to release my findings. Professor Oak, I have the results right here. And you are not the father of Ash Ketchum. There's just no way that secret would stay hidden in such a small town. And the timing makes no freaking sense. And given that Delia and Oak in later life both seem to enjoy each other's company quite a bit, like a lot, there's no reason Delia wouldn't have told her son Ash that this guy that everyone likes is his father. Which brings us to you, Bruno. Dark hair, medium dark skin, brown eyes, around Delia's age. Are you prepared, Bruno, for your results? You are not the father? Well, of course you're not the father. You're single, you're hot, you're a freaking good guy, you're an amazing Pokemon trainer, and you are never hanging around Pallet Town. Why would you? And why would Delia hide your identity? Oh, Ash, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that your father is literally one of the best Pokemon trainers in the world. Oh, that's stupid. Then, wait, who could it be then? Someone who had motive and opportunity, who was nearby and fits the profile of someone with darkish hair, brown eyes, and medium skin, and what's more, someone whom Ash's mom would feel was in her son's best interest to keep a secret. Well, there is one. There's a man who does fit this profile, and his name is Giovanni. All the pieces fit. He's an incredibly talented Pokemon trainer, like Delia says of Ash's dad, but she keeps his identity secret because he's a freaking mobster. He runs out of Viridian City, the closest city to Pallet Town, and a place that a young Delia would have definitely spent time in her youth looking for a good time. There's nothing to do in Pallet Town. What's more, he also sends his least dangerous henchmen to keep an eye on Ash 24/7. Like, Ash is never in any real danger from Jesse and James, like ever. Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket, a man with ambition and skill, turned to the dark side by promise of profit and notoriety, and Ash Ketchum's father. Well, he fits the profile anyway, ticks all the boxes. He's nearby, he's about the right age, has the right physical characteristics, and nothing that's been said about Ash's father would be contradicted by Giovanni's actions in the games or in the anime. So, Nintendo's never gonna tell us who the father actually is, so nobody can ever say that I'm wrong. I love that. What about Silver, the other Silver, the actual important Silver? Well, I did figure it out. As long as Giovanni paired with a pale blonde woman with blue or green eyes, it's totally plausible to spit out a kid that looks about as different from Ash as could possibly be. So, hope you're ready to step up and start paying child support, Giovanni, because it is freaking time to be a man. Sincerely, Austin. I just want to show out out of breath. I want to put out a personal thank you to my high-level patrons who make this show possible. They are bringing this show to you guys. That is Matthew Ridge, John Rozick, Miss Kendra, Ronald Coleman, Alan Hagers, TP, Nicholas Bullinger, Marissa Resnick, and Loretta Mazer. Also, there's this really fun fan theory that doesn't really fit with evidence, but supposedly some people think that Red actually is in the Pokemon canon, and that he was he did all his adventuring in the past, and then he's the father of Ash, because they look very similar, and they're both from Pallet Town. Sabrina is a little bit of a wrench in there. Also, it would make Oak like really old. And so there's I don't think that one makes any sense. I'm gonna go now. Bye.